In this chapter, we're going to discuss Trump's effect on immigration. To start off, I believe it is important to discuss where Trump is coming from as far as his policies regarding immigration and why he believes what he believes or why he sets forth the policies that he has set forth. A direct quote that I have from early on in his campaign is, "When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime. They are rapists, and some, I assume, are good people." Trump made sure to appeal to his base of blue-collar white Americans by pledging to halt immigration from Mexico by building a wall and banning Muslims until we know what is going on. He would actually yell out themes like "build the wall" and encourage his supporters to chant it in unison. Then he would yell out a different theme like "ban the Muslims" to evoke more audience participation. These types of chants that Trump promoted really begs to question whether or not he has a moral base because of his attacks against persons of color and Muslims. Trump appealed to a silent majority, the blue-collar white Americans that were mentioned earlier, and the reasons that he appealed to these people is because they were still affected by certain aspects that had happened before Trump had ever came to the picture, such as migration of manufacturing companies, decreased coal command, and the history of racist rhetoric. Trump proposed mass deportation of immigrants from Mexico and Central America, implying that 12 million of them would be deported soon after he took office. Mass deportation would have dire economic consequences for the United States because of the integral role of immigrants in the American economy. Immigrants contribute to economic growth in the United States by filling jobs that most Americans would reject. So how could we deport millions of these people and not even think about the collapse that our economy would experience because of doing so? Just this mere talk of mass deportation caused 12 million undocumented persons to panic in anticipation of raids on their homes. This brought forth the American Civil Liberty Union, also known as the ACLU, who frantically had to inform these immigrants of their legal rights, including their right not to discuss their immigration status with ICE personnel and local police. Immigration experts opposed Trump's desire to ban Muslim immigrants from 7 Muslim nations: Syria, Iraq, Iran, Sudan, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen in late January of 2017. They argued that the State Department had developed effective methods of vetting these immigrants to be certain that they were not terrorists. Aside from the events of 9/11, terrorism, they contended, was created by Muslim youth who had grown up in the United States and were citizens. Trump's desire to build a wall was met with several dilemmas, one of them being that Mexico would not pay for the wall, and many people who own land near the border insisted that they did not want the wall built upon their land. Even some members of law enforcement at the border argued that the wall would limit their vision of movements of immigrants on its southern side. Dreamers were children that had been brought to the United States by their undocumented parents. Unfortunately, Obama was unsuccessful in his efforts to pass the DREAM Act, which would have exempted dreamers from deportation and provided them with a pathway to citizenship. As a result, Obama issued the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, also known as DACA. DACA was an executive order that gave dreamers the right to remain in the United States for 2 years if they were registered, fingerprinted by ICE, and had not committed crimes. Thankfully, Trump failed in his efforts to reform immigration policies. Court after court ruled against his efforts to ban Muslims based on his racist rhetoric. Although Trump did not engage in mass deportation as previously promised, dreamers and undocumented immigrants would constantly stress about their future due to his temper tantrum-induced unpredictability. Despite Trump's efforts to cease funding to sanctuary cities that chose not to have their police forces collaborate with ICE, several federal judges ordered federal officials not to withhold funds from these sanctuaries. Ultimately, all in all, Trump failed.